All right, welcome back to another edition of the Call Up Podcast. This is the FigLife edition of the Call Up Podcast, where we get to know a little bit more about the hobby collectors that we all follow on Instagram or Facebook. Today, I am glad to have the guys from the Turnbuckle Tavern podcast and also the OG Fig Kid, which you can find him on the Debate Show. What's going on, guys?
Not much. How's it going?
Not bad, not bad. It's a
Yeah,
rainy
what's
day
going on,
here in
man?
New York.
Glad to be here.
All right. Yeah, it's raining over here in New York City right now. It's like a on and on, off again type of thing. So what about you guys?
Same thing here in Jersey.
Same thing in West Virginia, man.
Rainy day, rainy day.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
You would think, didn't they say it was like April shower, May flowers, and we're in May? It's still raining. I don't get it.
Yeah, it's time to
supposed
move
to
on.
rain all week long.
Well, you know what May flowers bring, right?
What's up?
Pilgrims.
Oh my God.
Here come the pilgrims.
Oh boy.
Oh man. So typically here with the FigLife, it's more of a get to know the community a little bit better. We're all, average wrestling fans. We all collect a whole bunch of things. I see OG Fig Kid. If you guys are watching the video edition of this, he has an ET in the background. And then Chad has a whole bunch of DVDs. So
Yeah, big movie collector. I think Sneed and Tom are definitely the more wrestling figure collectors of the three of us. I'm a big film buff. Went to film school. Collect a lot of old school movies, particularly like the 60s and 70s. But I do have some wrestling figures, but I can't put myself on the level of Tom, the OG Fig Kid, and Sneed. They have way more than me.
I also have every WWE DVD and Blu-ray released and a whole bunch of TV shows on DVD. So I collect a lot of that stuff also.
I used to collect DVDs. I used to work at a video store back in the day. And of course, I'll start, like buying DVDs when they would come out. But then after a while, like, with Netflix and all these streaming services came, I kind of just like got rid of them. Some of them went to like my brother who still collects, like DVDs and stuff like that. He has like all the Disney DVDs and the VHS. So
oh wow. So
Yeah.
a quick little story. If you remember, Blockbuster used to get into WWE DVDs and they would have exclusive footage not available on the ones bought in store.
Yeah.
So I just used to rent them and never return them. And I still have all those as well. I'm probably the reason Blockbuster doesn't exist anymore.
your name is on a list of like people that they're gonna come and get sooner or later.
I'm not allowed into the one Blockbuster that's left standing.
I'm telling you, your picture is like right on their wall in the back, like people that we need to get. It's like you're on the blacklist.
That's it.
That's why you have to go by OG Fig Kid.
Exactly.
This is Alias.
Yeah. Now,
Wherever
here's
that one Blockbuster is, I've just recently, I think, saw there's a documentary on it.
Yeah, the last Blockbuster. It's good. It's a good documentary.
Yeah. I've got to check it out.
Now, when that comes out on DVD, are you gonna get that too?
I don't buy new movies. I'm not a fan of new film. Like most of the stuff I collect is like boutique movies that you've never heard of. Not to be a movie snob. I mean, I do still watch current films here and there, but that's a whole other. I could open up a can of worms and go on and on about how I think Hollywood has just shit the bed. But yeah, mainly classic films, boutique B movies and stuff like that. Things that you can't find on those streaming services like Netflix and Hulu. So that I love physical copy stuff, even with books. Like I'm not a Kindle guy. I like having the book in my hand. I like putting the movie into my player and watching it. Yeah, I'm just weird and old school. Like I long for the days of going to the movie rental store and renting a VHS. Like I'm that guy.
Well, and here's the thing too, and then I'm sure we'll get into this, but now Chad and I, we've known each other for a very long time, and we also lived and worked together in New York, and we worked at Tower Records, which was it was nice to work in a store like that, and I miss having that type of store around, especially that tower that we worked.
Oh, big time.
Yeah, and it was a place like you're talking about, two kids from middle of nowhere, West Virginia, and it was kind of our first culture shock, fish out of water, moving to Manhattan, working in Manhattan, working with Tower was great about the personalities that worked there. You know, you would have old 70-year-old men working in the classical music section, and then you have punk rockers covered in tattoos and mohawks working on the rock floor. It was just like, I feel like I really kind of, my eyes were opened, and being around that culture and everything, just artistically what you're into, different ways of looking at life, things that we had never been exposed to. Those 4 years in New York really, I think, shaped me and Sneed both.
Oh, for sure.
And if I remember, Tower Records was open 365 days a year, right?
Yes.
Because my uncle, as a little kid, took me in on Easter, and it was the first time I bought a record. Was a Tower record. I bought 245s, and I remember what they were. Rick Springfield's Jesse's Girl and Wham's Wake Me Up Before You Go Go.
That's great.
Now Chad,
I still have them, actually.
Chad and I got special treatment. We were liked a lot by the management team, so we got special treatment during the holidays when we wanted to go back to West Virginia to visit. But they were open 363.
Yeah, I think they had an affinity for us because we were the two hillbillies that worked at Tower.
They're already telling you guys, like, listen, just go home. You know, everybody's like, how did they get the holidays off? Like, I want to go home for Thanksgiving.
Right.
Well, cigarettes are cheaper in West Virginia too, so people would want us to bring back cheap cigarettes.
So you were filling up the trunk on your way back.
Yeah.
Oh my God. So I had the pleasure of going on your show. I was on the debate show, which was great. And I've also listened to past episodes of you guys because you guys run a podcast called the Turnbuckle Tavern. How did you guys get started with this?
Sneed?
Well, now this has been something that's been in the works for a very, very long time. Like I said, Chad and I, we've known each other for a good 25 years or more. We went to school together, and we've always, I think wrestling's where we bonded initially. But just through the years, you know, Chad and I, we've lived together in New York. We lived together in Florida. Always followed wrestling with each other. And we always had the idea, Chad had moved to California. I was still here in West Virginia. We had the idea to start doing a podcast. It never came to fruition until this past year when the pandemic hit. And then AEW, we went to Double or Nothing 2019.
Yeah, the first inaugural event.
Yeah, so we were in Vegas for that, and that kind of rekindled the fire to start something, especially with AEW being a new company and being such a, I'll say it, we're marks for AEW. So, so, you know, during the pandemic hit, I had equipment set up, never really had a good setup. So we never really started it. And then I came across this piece of equipment that Chad had told me about called the Rodecaster Pro. And then when the Rodecaster Pro, when I got that, it literally changed up my podcasting life.
Yeah, we had always wanted to do it, but it was one of those things we didn't want to come in half-assed and the sound quality suffer, or be one of those things where we were busy with other things and we knew we couldn't commit to consistency, because our big thing was once we start, we don't miss. You know, our big thing is every week you can depend on us to be there no matter what. Yeah. And our show is very much the Turnbuckle Tavern, the main flagship show that started everything. It is very much a AEW recap. We almost want to be like an oral history of AEW. If you know, we grew up on WWE and WCW and NWA. We are definitely from a part of the country that is NWA heavy. So we grew up going to house shows of WCW, seeing Ric Flair go against Sting in cage matches. You know, that was what we cut our teeth on. My earliest wrestling memory, though, is Bob Uecker being choked out by Andre the Giant. That's the first thing I remember. But, you know, we had kind of become jaded with the WWE product. And like Sneed said, I think when AEW hit, we liked all the people involved. And it was exciting to see a major national company with real money behind it. And we're like, man, this is cool to get in from the ground floor, because we aren't old enough to experience WWE from day one. So it was kind of fun to be like, hey, let's watch this from the beginning and consume everything we can and follow and track the stories. And then the podcast was kind of birthed out of that, about, you know, let's let's really dive deep into these recaps. And because I think there's a lot of podcasts out there that are WWE heavy, and I found myself always being like, man, I wish they would talk a little more AEW and really get into the deep dives where you're having discussions about bookings and things like that. So me and Steve were like, let's let the other guys handle WWE and let's make this kind of our niche to just go hard into AEW.
Yeah, I mean, and that's a good thing that you guys started off, just strictly doing like AEW because of the whole fact that everybody just does like WWE, like NXT and stuff like that, or they try to like incorporate, AEW into the mix,
right?
And then you just get like this, whole big like review show of like everything throughout the week,
right?
And you kind of just like try to digest everything, so they kind of like cut back on a lot of things. So it's great. Like you guys, one thing that I love is that if I miss something from AEW, I know that you guys caught it,
right?
And I can probably like go back and be like, okay, well they said this, and I can go back to like say like YouTube or something like that, and watch it later.
Right. Yeah, it's fun, man. It's like, because I'm a big I listen to Busted Open Radio with Bully Ray every day, and they do what you say. They kind of recap the shows of the day, but they never go deep, and I love those deep, long discussions about what we love, where you get into the nitty gritty, and so our podcast can run up to 3 hours sometimes because we don't want to put a cap on it. I don't want to feel like the conversation is rushed. We just let it flow. And, if people want to fast forward through things, so be it. But I know, me being a mailman in my day job, I appreciate a good long podcast to get you through the day. And I think there are people out there that wish, like, man, I wish this show was longer. I would rather give you a little too much that you can cut back from than not give you enough. So that's kind of our take.
Yeah, because I work nights, so and I'm a cop here in New York, so there's times where like I'm by myself like 90% of the time because of the pandemic. So it's great. That's why like I catch up to a lot of shows. It's just at night I just let it run, and then all of a sudden by the time the show's over, it's almost time for me to go home or start another show, and then my time is up unless somebody like does something crazy in the streets. But
it helps it helps your work shift go by when you have podcasts to listen to.
I've been listening to them, and they just have a passion for AEW that it's just amazing. It just shows on their podcast. Like it is the best AEW podcast out there. If you're not listening and you're an AEW fan, you have to start listening to their show, to the main podcast.
Yeah, that's so true. That's what I said. As one of the things that like it drew me to you guys was like your passion for AEW, and it wasn't like a I've listened to like other AEW podcasts where like they'll bash like WWE like heavy when they do something like, oh, Cody Rhodes did this. I guarantee he wouldn't be doing that in WWE because they'll put him in catering or something like that.
Right.
Like you guys kind of just like steer away from that and just go directly for what we want, which is good storytelling.
Right. And here's the thing too, we don't even mention WWE. If we're going to talk about what's going on in WWE, we don't even say the name. Like most of the time on the other company.
Right. And our thing is like, we loved WWE I never understood people that only want to talk about something they don't like. Like I would rather talk about what we do like. And that's not to say like we mention WWE and we'll be critical here and there, but if they do something, we are not like haters, bashers. We just try to call it like we see it. And we're critical of AEW. We're not a AEW podcast where we're just blowing smoke up their ass the whole, like if there's something we don't like, we verbalize it. We don't want to, we want to be positive, but we want to be fair. And I feel like people want to hear the truth. They don't want to hear you just glowingly talk about everything. Then you have no credibility, and again, we long for the days of the WWE that we love. So we, when they're good again, we'll be there watching consistently. And I still keep up on it. It's not that I don't watch it. I definitely keep up with all wrestling. We just choose to do the podcast about AEW.
Hey, look, at the end of our show, we do a nightcap top 5, and one week Edge winning the Royal Rumble was my number one of the week.
Yeah. Yeah. If it pops us, we're
Yeah.
wrestling fans. If you pop us, we're going to talk about it.
Yep.
I just love the fact that you're coming on your year anniversary and 1 week you had a WWE moment crack the top 5.
Yeah.
That just shows you.
Yeah.
So what was like some of the challenges? Because you guys said you started this through the pandemic, right? I think a lot of podcasts and like YouTube channels all started throughout the pandemic. I know I'm one of them. I needed something to take my mind off of the pandemic, and I was, sitting around talking with Sheena from the Chick Foley show, and I was doing the whole Instagram stuff, like posting, wrestling figures, things that happen, backstage and stuff like that, like breaking news type of things that I would read online and just, putting it out there. And I told Sheena, I was just like, what do you think about maybe like starting like a show or something, or just like a conversational type of thing? She said, just go for it. Like, regardless if you're nervous or not, because I hated hearing my voice like
Same.
on a radio or, playing something back. So it took a while, and now I'm here doing stuff like this. And it's almost going on a year now since, I started doing this. So like, what are some challenges for you guys that you faced so far?
Well, one of the challenges to getting started that made it start during the pandemic was time. For me, I was working a job at the time before the pandemic that left me little to zero time. The schedule was just crazy. Then when the pandemic hit, I was off work and I had that time, and I was able to put the time in to make everything work the way that I wanted it to work. And then we got into the routine, and I think that was the biggest thing, was getting into the routine of doing it.
Yeah. For me, the big challenge wasn't in the lead up, because Sneed was really kind of, Sneed had the studio, Sneed had the equipment. I was just kind of like, dude, whenever you're ready, I'm there. So the challenge for me is, once it began, again, I'm a mailman, which means very early mornings. So I have that brutal Thursday, because we record right after, as soon as Dynamite ends, we record, and by the time I'm getting in bed, it's 3 a.m. and early wake up call. So that's been my challenge, is just juggling that. But it's a challenge. Like, we're so excited to do the show that I don't mind it at all. It's kind of became the podcast for me, having your girlfriend and your personal life and your work and all of these other things that you focus on. Wednesday nights for me has kind of became poker night. It's where the boys get together, we watch wrestling, have a few drinks, maybe order some pizza, and then we get on the podcast and shoot the shit. And we get to interview cool wrestlers, indie wrestlers. We've interviewed, AEW stars like Vicky Guerrero, Griff Garrison, Nick Aldis from NWA, Thunder Rosa. We've got to talk to a lot of cool people. And, Wednesday night is our poker night. It's night with the boys talking pro wrestling.
The challenge for me was trying to get these two guys to have me on their show.
I was just gonna get to that, because you've been sitting there so patiently. It's just like,
he's waiting.
All right, I'm waiting to get on and say my spiel. So then the other half of your show is the debate show, where you guys bring up some topics. You bring on a guest. Sometimes you bring on a guest. Sometimes you don't. And you guys just pretty much just like hash it out. And that's where the OG Fig Kid comes in. He is the star of the show, as he told me last week. He's a staple.
The staple.
The man who holds it together.
So how Tom became the OG Fig Kid, Tom the staple. He has a lot of AKAs. I remember me and Sneed had a conversation at one point, and Sneed knew Tom through the Major Wrestling Figure podcast group, right? Sneed?
Yes.
And Tom had popped in a couple times on the tavern. He called in to give a WWE perspective, because we would talk about things we didn't like. And I think the first time he called in, he had a way to save WWE's booking. Yeah. And he wanted to call in and talk to us. And we had a conversation. And when Tom went off the air and we were off air, I told Steve, I was like, that was a lot of fun getting another opinion. And a couple weeks went by, and me and Steve were just having the feeling that, you know, we are AEW marks. We've known each other for 25 plus years. So a lot of our likes and dislikes sometime align. And I'm like, man, we need someone to stir the pot. We need to debate more. And we were like, at first we were thinking it was going to be a segment on the main show, but the main show ran long anyways. And like, what if we just do a debate show? And then instantly we were like, Tom, us get Tom on there. We have 3 people, and we've done that show. I think our episode with you, Kenny, was like episode 26. But we did it just us 3 for a while, and then I think episode 19 we brought on Sheena Phelps from Chick Foley show, and we started implementing a 4th voice. But Tom, Sneed or Tom, you guys take it away on the story.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. Like they said, I came on to be the WWE guy because when AEW first started, I DVR'd it every week, but I would literally sit there and probably fast forward through 95% of it. And then, you know, as time went on, you know, I'd watch a little more, get interested in something else. And then once I started the show with them, it's like I fell in love with the product. I love the storylines. I love the cliffhangers that they have that WWE doesn't have. And it kind of made me get more stale to the WWE product now that I saw there was something else out there. But you know, so now I'm a big AEW mark, but I still watch Raw, and I punish myself and watch Raw every week. And I watch SmackDown, which is more enjoyable than Raw. But then again, it's like, what's more enjoyable, having diarrhea or being constipated? So, you know.
How did you guys, Sneed? How did you and Tom? How did that all start? Because I was kind of on the outside of that.
Just on posts. I guess we were interacting on each other's posts in the wrestling figure group.
No, I can tell you exactly when it started. I had
really.
Yeah, I know exactly when it started. When you and I started talking, I had a medical diagnosis that I had reached out to the Major Wrestling Figure Group for some help. And Tom reached out and gave me a suggestion for a book that I needed to get. And I got the book, and he would follow up with me and ask me how I was doing with it and things like that. And then we just started talking more and more about wrestling, and it ended up in a phone call one day where we were on the phone for maybe, I don't know, an hour or so.
It was at least an hour, and we just had instant chemistry talking. Like, it just seemed like the time flew by. And I remember that.
I think that's when I told Chad, I was like, we got a WWE guy that I'd like to bring on.
Yeah, it's not. Isn't that crazy how we all just meet different people and just connect? Like you guys meeting on the major pod channel and stuff like that, and just like hitting it off. You know, I had the same experience with a lot of the guys that I speak to, especially the guys from the Run-In Pod, because you know they started their show, and I kind of just like jump on here and there for like different segments. You know, I give like my corrections on things if they miss something. I love Impact Wrestling. So they don't really watch Impact, so they kind of just said, hey, you know what, if you want to, you can do the reviews for Impact on the show. Just, you know, send us the recordings. And I would literally just sit there and be like, all right, cool. I mean, I'm already watching the show, so why not? Like we had like a little joke because they said, okay, it's only a minute, so imagine me trying to like condense a whole review in a minute, but then I would still go over, so it'd be like 2-3 minutes, and they'll be like, yeah, it's the Impact Minute, but it's 3 minutes this week, so here you go. You know, unless there's nothing going on.
Shout out to those guys, because the Run-In Pod guys have always been very supportive of us from the beginning, and they actually started their podcast. Their first episode was released the same day our first episode was released, and they've always been very supportive. So I like those guys. And to your point, man, honestly, the thing about this podcast to me that it has been the coolest outside of, you know, just doing the show itself is just connecting with people. You know, we've met Tom, and now Tom's one of our good wrestling friends, you know what I mean? And
I feel like I've known Tom for years.
Exactly. And having, you know, meeting people like you, Kenny, and, you know, Sheena and Seth and Marco from Chick Foley, and we got, you know, Scott and Mike from Pyramid Wrestling, and Nick, Extra Cooler, all of those guys, and really, you know, that's our Pod Foundation family. And it's cool because for the longest time, having known Sneed as long as I have, me and Sneed were the only two wrestling people. We were kind of the lone wolves of our group of friends that watched pro wrestling. So to meet other diehards, to meet other diehards out there that love pro wrestling like we do, even though we're only communicating through Zooms and social media, it really makes you feel like you're a part of a community. And I, we've always been a part of the wrestling community, but to kind of have that support system around you of great, talented people also contributing, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's one of the things that, that I love is just like once that pandemic, started, it was like we had to stop everything. If you went to independent shows or you went to meet and greets or you went to, AEW shows or WWE shows, like everything kind of just stopped. But the wrestling community found a way to bring us all together, whether it's through Zoom or StreamYard or Facebook, Instagram, doing things like this is just like interacting with other people was like something that was great. And that's why, I wanted to do, more shows like this. And it's just like, cause I was really big on meet and greets.
Yeah.
So anytime you would see, I'm always meeting somebody. And my wife was just like, who are you meeting this weekend? I'm like, I don't know. Like whoever's in town, because in New York, we had so many shows going on that everybody was here.
Right.
So now, doing the show and trying to get people to come on the show, I think that's like the tougher part on my end was just trying to book more guests. And then that's when I came with the FigLife segment of the show where I said, you know what, I want to know more about people's collections, because that's all you see on the major network is just you see everybody's collection, everybody that posts, especially like on a Chick Foley show, what they got for the week or what they're hunting for. So I'm like, you know what, I want to know more about their story.
Yeah.
And that's why I came up with this.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah, it's awesome.
So how long have you guys been collecting, like each of you?
I've been collecting my whole life. I remember my first venture into collecting was the first figure that I ever got was a Brutus the Barber Beefcake Series 1 Hasbro. And that from then on set it in motion. So all the Hasbros, all the Galoobs, had them when I was a kid, started recollecting them men on card as an adult. And that's kind of where my love lies with collecting.
I know I started now to date myself.
Oh yeah, Tom's a lot older than what we are.
Yeah,
so.
he's old again.
I was online. I got the LJNs, the first series, the first day they were released. So I was probably about 10 years old. I think it was in 85. So that I started right day one. LJNs got the first 4 they released. Iron Sheik came a couple of weeks later or a couple of months later. He was not released with the initial set, even though he was supposed to be. I'm still trying to find out if anybody knows why. I've yet to find a reason. And I stopped with the Hasbros because I went from playing with these big playable figures to these little ones. And I'm like, oh, I can't play with these. What can you do with these? And I got back into it when Jax was around, and my wife started buying me gifts, like from Ringside, buying me Jax figures. And then Mattel came around and I quit again because I'm like, oh, I don't want to start over. And then a couple of years into that, I sold all my Jax and started collecting Mattels. And now I have collecting the Jazzwares AEW line, and I've gone back. I'm trying to complete the Black Card series of my LJNs now, since when I was a kid, I had every LJN. I still have them from when I was a kid. But when I saw the Black Cards in the magazine, I went to my parents and I'm like, I need to get these. And they were like, no, like you have enough figures. That's too much money. And so now I've made it my mission. I have to complete those. And
oh boy,
I'm just looking for really minty ones.
Good
I have
luck.
the Warrior so far. I have the Hogan with the white shirt. I know.
Your wallet is going to hate you.
I know. I'm doing it slowly. Like I said, I got the Andre. I don't have the Blackstrap Andre yet. That's probably the next one.
Are there? How many Black Cards eligible?
Well, I mean, some of them are actually duplicates of like that what was already out. So there's only about 5 that were not released in with the regular card. And Taku, Warrior, Warlord, the Blackstrap Andre, Ted DiBiase. And I feel like that might be it. I'd have to double check.
Was it Axe? Was Axe a regular?
And Axe was blue card, the original blue card, but then he was re-released with the black card as well. So yeah, I have Axe. So that's how I know he's not just Blackheart because I have them.
Mhm.
So
God, when you get all this and you finally complete it, okay, me and you need to sit down again, all right, and you need to just have all of them next to you, and we're just gonna review each and every one of them. It'll just be your own show, your own segment. We're just sitting here to discuss
sounds good to me.
the Black-hearted LGNs.
And like I said,
Because
I never
that is
threw
so
anything
interesting.
away as a kid. So like I still have this, and it's like still pretty minty. Like, you know, Piper's not as mint because Piper was beaten up a lot. I have
Mhm.
Piper over here, so I never let my parents throw my toys away as a kid. Thank God, because I wouldn't have to want to be doing all the LJNs again.
See,
I wish I would have did that.
I keep the minty galoobs next to me all the time. So
Well,
Yeah.
these guys just stand on my desk, but those Galoobs, he's made me want to start a Galoob collection now because they're an awesome little figure. They really are.
Oh yeah, I have a couple of them,
yeah,
but I don't have them mint on card. I have them all loose.
I have a loose Stinger. That's the only one I have.
they've proved to be pretty difficult to find mint on card. So I don't know. I don't know if that's something you want to get into.
So Chad, you collect something completely different
Yeah.
than wrestling figures. You want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I went to film school. Big movie nerd, collect boutique films, and I'm not a bit. I don't buy new movies. I'm more old school movies, 60s, 70s films. Later than that, 80s films. A lot of stuff you can't get on streaming sites. Um, I do have figures. I did grow up like Sneak. I mean, like anyone my age, I was buying the Hasbros. I had all of the Galoobs. I still have a lot of those. I have some of them in this room right now, displayed. I have the first series of AEW Unrivaled, but I'm one of those people, I have to really watch myself because if I get obsessed with something, I go all in.
Oh, it's a slippery slope.
And so I really pump the brakes on buying figures because I know I only have so much money to go around. And if I would let myself go deep, I would be the asshole buying a $1,200 Chase variant from the AEW line. I would be that guy dropping stupid money. And I'm like, you got to be careful, man. You got to be careful. So, yeah.
And that's exactly why I got out of the Chase game. I had the first 4 chases and the rares, and I got rid of them. I sold them because I just didn't want to be the completist where I was going to wind up spending so much money on them. I'm like, I got to get out now, or else I'm going to do something stupid, which I usually do anyway.
But now I think it's going to be easier because they've upped the number so much.
Yeah.
Now it is.
Yeah.
Now it will be.
But I was the same way where I was a completist. Like I would just get a whole set of something just because like I knew I maybe wanted 3 out of the set, but then I would just be like, oh, let me just get the whole set. Yeah. And then after a while I'll start looking at them and like, do I really need this? Like how many Jeff Hardys can I actually have in one collection, So I kind of just scaled back to the ones that I really like. But throughout doing the show here, like I've just opened up doors to like other stuff. Like for like 2 months I started collecting trading cards, and then I was just like, what the hell am I doing?
Yeah.
So I got rid of them. I started collecting ring gear from different talent, and I kind of was like, and just like Chad said, is like you go down that slippery slope, and I'm just like, oh, some people start hitting me up and like, hey, do you want to get this? And I'm like, yeah, sure. And then I'm looking like, you know what? I really don't need this.
Yeah.
Like let's get rid of that.
I almost feel like collecting is a disease. Almost like being an addict, because I hated the Funko Pops, and then I saw the Piper one, and then I had to get every WWE one because I got the Piper one, and it's just I'm a completist. I did the same thing with the retros. I didn't even want the retros, but I just heard everybody talking about them, so I started buying them. So I had the complete set. I just sold it one day. I'm like, you know what? I didn't want them, and they don't really mean anything to me. I'm not attached to them, so. It's just being a collector. It is a slippery slope. You've got to be strong in what you want to collect. And I've cut back now. I've cut back some.
Yeah, I'm a miscellaneous collector now. I like having, I have a few micro brawlers that I really like. I have a few Funko Pops I really like, but now it's like those stuff like that has to grab me. You know, I like NECA has some cool stuff that I'm itching to get. Things like that. So I try not to be a completist with figure collecting because I'm a completist with like filmmakers. If I can't just buy one movie, I've got to have the guy's complete filmography. So it's like if I become a completist in anything else, I'm screwed. Like,
So what's the one thing, go around the table here, what's the one thing that you really want for your collection that you do not have? I'm going to start with Sneed.
So the one thing that I want for my collection that I don't have is a Series 1 Hasbro Men on Card Macho Man.
Okay, and what is stopping you from getting this?
Finding the right one, man. It's so hard to find it Men on Card where the card's not completely beat up or the bubbles yellowed. And like, if I'm gonna do a Men on Card, it's gonna it has to be as minty can be, and that has proven to be the hardest. I have a Dusty Rhodes and Andre Men on Card, and those were easier to find than what the Macho Man Series 1 has been. So that, and then number 2 would be Series 1 Axe and Smash Hasbro's. Those are also, especially Axe, for some reason the hands where he's pressing are always pushed in. So those three are my grails right now.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm like Sneed. Like I said, I want the black card collection, and I'm being patient because I want the minty. Like my Warrior and my Hogan are minty. I paid top dollar for them, but to me it was worth it. But the next one I want is this Blackstrap Andre. I want that. That's gonna on my hit list for the next. And I've seen a bunch of them around on eBay, and they're never in good condition. Right now, there's a mint on card, black card Andre on eBay for $7,500. So that's just $7,000 out of my price range. So, but it's going to be in my collection one day. I know I don't need it mint on card. I just want a really good condition loose one.
Okay.
So
it'll be there next week.
Soon.
For figures, I mean, honestly, the figure that I want right now more than anything would be the one that's not released yet. It's that John Moxley Chase. I believe it's in Series 5 or 6, maybe. The one with the
Series 5,
with the eye patch.
The eye patch. I mean, that's one of the best looking figures I've seen in a while. Honestly, I love that figure, and also the Darby Chase. I would love to find the Darby Chase in the wild where he split. You know, the body paint. I thought that was very cool. Movie wise, there's a movie. It's a Blu-ray called Joysticks. It's a 1980s sex comedy, and like Porky's or Fast Times at Ridgemont High. There's a 30th anniversary Blu-ray. I've found it, but it goes for like $125, and I would kick my own ass if I spent that for a Blu-ray. So I'm like hoping I would find it in a yard sale or something. So yeah.
I mean, you never know. Even though we're like, some people say we're still, we're coming out of the pandemic, the holidays are going to hit. Somebody's going to have it. They're probably going to try and sell it off for a low price if they can't sell it for a higher price. And that's when you just swoop right in and just grab it from them.
It's about finding those people who don't know what they have.
Yes.
Like that's tricky, but most people know what they have with collectors. But if you find someone who doesn't know what they have, whew.
You gotta find that angry girlfriend that is just gonna sell somebody's stuff off.
Yeah, exactly.
I've just started checking out the Let Go app and a whole bunch of those apps, looking for people getting rid of collections and stuff who don't know because it was something happened or like it was left in a parent's house, so the parents just want to get rid of it.
Yeah.
So we'll wrap up the show because it looks like we'll be here all night, and then we all have to work. but
some of us have to work. Some of us have to be back at the casino to play baccarat tomorrow.
There you go. So that's still work, like
it is.
So where can they catch the Turnbuckle Tavern podcast if they don't know?
So they can do it. You can find us on Apple. You can find us on Spotify. You can find us on Google Podcast. You can find our YouTube channel. Just search for Turnbuckle Tavern on there. We have a Tuesday exclusive, YouTube exclusive show called Power Trip, where we review NWA Power from that evening. So you can find that exclusively. You can also find our video interviews on there as well. And then you can find our merchandise on prowrestlingtees.com/tavern.
Yeah, every Monday we have the debate show with Tom. It drops Monday mornings. Every Wednesday morning, Tuesday night on YouTube, we have the NWA Power Show, our Power Trip show that's exclusive to YouTube, like Sneed said. And then on Thursday morning, we drop our flagship show, the Turnbuckle Tavern, which is a deep dive into AEW. And we may have a few surprise announcements coming up soon, but we're not ready to disclose the new stuff.
No spoilers yet.
No spoilers
Okay.
yet.
Well, I'll definitely be on the lookout for that one.
And make sure you
follow me.
Our 1 year anniversary show. There'll be a lot of information on that show.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at the OG Fig Kid. I'm 3 followers away from 1,000 on Instagram. Show me some love.
You'll
I
get it.
actually can thank Cody for that because he's the one who got me about 50 new followers yesterday.
There
No
you go.
name-
You'll
no name
get it
drop.
by the end of the night. Hopefully that they'll pick up some more listeners. See if you say Cody's name 3 times, like the boogeyman. It probably popping out of nowhere.
Right. Yeah.
It
And
is.
we'll have to have you back on to the debate, Kenny. It was a lot of fun having you on.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
I definitely had a lot of fun with that. I was like telling everybody I was like, you guys got to check out this show that I'm on. I came on as a guest, and a couple of my coworkers was just like, that was a good listen to. I was like, all right, like, thank you so much, because it's just so weird to come on other shows,
Right.
and do stuff like that, because normally I'm just like listening in on people's shows. So
Yeah.
to get invited to do something like that was a lot of fun.
Well, you have an
And
open
it's-
seat, man. Anytime you want to come on.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Same
And
here.
it's a unique show because you got, usually 3 of us are now 4 with guests, just debating, current topics from history, just people who have the passion for wrestling discussing it like you normally just discuss with your friends, and now getting people listening to it, just a lot of fun. I think it's what was missing in the podcast and wrestling world.
Yeah.
I have to agree.
I think we try to make it like, first ESPN First Take or Skip and
Can we have
Shannon.
Charlie
Undisputed.
Caruso on?
Yeah.
Charlie and Nolt?
Soon.
Yeah. We want to bring, the wrestling community together and get, we need to help each other out and everyone come together and have good wrestling conversation. Nothing better than that.
That's great. So we're going to close out the show, guys. Thank you for joining us here at the Call Up Podcast with the FigLife edition, and tune in for another story that we'll get to meet some more people. I know I have another ring worn guy coming in soon. His name is Anthony. So, be on the lookout for that one. And until next time, guys, later.